Thanks, Charlie. I'd just like to welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 27th day of February 2024. Before we get going, I just want to remind everyone that this evening's meeting will be live streamed via our YouTube channel, so you can watch us live this evening or anytime after that you'd like to watch us. So having said that, we'll start off with closed session. We'll look for a motion to rise and report from closed session this evening. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. I'd like to report that in closed session this evening, Council approved the closed session minutes of February 13th, 2024, received 2 information reports regarding prospective land sales and gave direction to staff, and received for information a report regarding negotiations to be carried on by the municipality. Having said that, we'll look for an adoption of the agenda as amended. We've added item 9.7 this evening into the agenda, so we'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof this evening? Seeing none. First up, we have a public meeting under the authority of the Planning Act. And I see Mr. Nobes is coming up. We'll have a presentation this evening by our planner, and we'll have an opportunity to speak to anybody in the body of the council chambers if they have any questions with respect to that public meeting. So, sorry. Yeah, we'll look for a motion to declare the public meeting open under the Planning Act. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, I think, are you going to start, Michael?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll do a quick introduction and then I'll turn it over to my colleague to my right. So this public meeting is for phase 3 of the planned Richmond Mobile Home Park expansion. In a previous council term, it was approved to allow for the expansion of the mobile home park into phase 2, which was located immediately north of the existing mobile home park. This phase 3 plans to immediately expand to the abutting lands to the east of the phase 2. So this would be located northeast of the existing mobile home park and immediately north of the Village Green long-term care facility that's currently under construction. The application seeks to permit an additional 79 mobile home sites in addition to commercial frontage along County Road 41 and additional road access into the mobile home park from County Road 41 to provide 2 means of access into the interior of the site. With me tonight is Mr. Tyler Hamilton. He's a planner for the proponent, and he's a planner with FO10 Planning and Design in Kingston. And Mr. Hamilton will walk council through a presentation identifying what the proposal is, give some more context, and provide an overview from a planning perspective. And both he and I will be able to answer any questions that council might have or the public tonight.
Great, thanks, Michael. Good evening, Mr. Hamilton. Just I'll remind you that you have to touch or push the button on the right there, and you have to hold it. We'll be able to hear you fine. It's just the folks at home won't be able to, and then I'll get yelled at. So the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Hamilton. I'm a planner with FO10 Planning and Design. I'm here tonight to speak about phase 3 of Richmond Park and the associated applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. Give me a moment as I work the clicker. The subject site is located on the west side of County Road 41, north of Highway 401, and has close access to the broader transportation network. The site is located in proximity to a variety of land uses, which include light industrial, residential, and commercial uses. And if you can see on the image provided, as we move from the north down to the south of County Road 41, the uses go from light industrial to more commercial uses as we get closer to Highway 401. The site is also accessed from County Road 41. The subject site itself is currently vacant, and has approximate site area of 4.9 hectares with approximately 245 meters of frontage along County Road 41. You can see in the image, Phase 2, which is highlighted in blue, is located immediately to the west of Phase 3, with Phase 1 being located to the southwest of Phase 3. The vacant land located to the immediate south of Phase 3 is the future site of the Omni Long-Term Care Home, and the site is also located to the south of Selby Creek. Under the current policy framework, the site is currently designated arterial commercial under the Town of Greater Napanee official plan. Under this designation, under the arterial commercial designation, there's a wide range of commercial uses permitted as well as community facilities. However, residential uses are not permitted under the current land use designation. The subject site is also zoned arterial commercial with a holding provision and future development under zoning bylaw 0222. Under the arterial commercial zoning, there's a wide range of non-residential uses permitted. However, standalone residential uses are not permitted under the zoning. With regards to the future development zone, existing uses within the zone are permitted, which in this case would be nothing as it's vacant, and new residential uses are not permitted. The intent of the application is to expand upon the existing Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Richmond Park to provide additional units, open spaces, commercial uses, as well as a recreation center. And through doing this, there will also be access for Phase 1 and 2 to County Road 41. As part of the proposal, 79 new mobile home sites are proposed with a minimum site area of 280 square meters. All of the sites will have at least one parking space. And if we look at the site, the purple area denoted in the northeast corner of the site is going to be the site of the recreation center, which will be provided for the current residents and future residents of Richmond Park. And if we look at the two green spaces, the one located in the northwest corner of the site and the one central to the site, those are the open spaces provided for Phase 3. The open space in the northeast corner is going to connect via a existing pathway with Phase 2. And there's a new parquet that's been provided between sites 59 and 79, central to the site. This will be provided for the residents of Richmond Park as well. And if you look at the site as it is right now, it looks slightly different than what was proposed at the very beginning of the slide. And that's because through the technical review comments and through working with staff, we've updated the site slightly to provide additional open space for the residents. Additionally, this site also includes two 855 square meter commercial buildings, which are going to have frontage along County Road 41. And additionally, servicing in the form of stormwater management will be provided through internal swales along the road network. So this slide here represents an idea of what the sites are going to look like within Phase 3. While these aren't exact models, this just provides an idea of what the development is going to look like within this phase. And then I've now provided some conceptual mobile home floor plans. While these aren't completely solidified yet, these floor plans have been designed to take into consideration the minimum site requirements associated with the zoning bylaw. And as you can see, there's also been contemplation for how the functionality of the parking space is going to integrate into the site. So this is the community center. So as you can see here, the purple area is going to be a 3,000 square foot building for the residents to use. There's also going to be a pool provided as part of this recreation center area. Within the recreation center, there's going to be 25 parking spaces provided, 23 of which will be regular parking spaces, and there'll be 2 accessible spaces, one type A and one type B. The entirety of the community center will be located outside of the 30-meter setback from Selby Creek. As part of this application, There was a variety of reports and plans that were prepared to determine the technical feasibility of the development. These include a servicing report, stormwater management report, noise, transportation, in addition to the planning justification report. Within the planning justification report, we discuss the findings of all these reports. And these reports were to show that there's a technical feasibility for the development, and these have been further refined through the technical review process with the municipality. So the proposed official plan amendment tonight is to redesignate a majority of the site from arterial to commercial to low-density residential. And as you can see in the image provided, the low-density residential is going to be the yellow area that's located to the right of the larger yellow block. The low-density residential designation is going to allow for the residential development of the sites, and it permits a maximum density of 30 units per net hectare. The proposed development is going to offer 19 units per net hectare. In addition to this amendment, we're also seeking to permit an additional 2 severances through consent for the areas that are going to remain arterial commercial, and that will be to provide future flexibility to provide severances if the commercial areas are to be sold in the future. The zoning bylaw amendment seeks to rezone a majority of the site from arterial commercial with the hold to a mobile home exception zone. And the purpose of this mobile home exception zone is to address the minimum lot frontage, which is because we're seeking to address the minimum lot frontage as a majority of the site is going to remain commercial. So we're going to need relief there, but it won't affect the functionality of the site as there will still be access from County Road 41, and it will be integrated with phases 1 and 2, which also has access to Drive-In Road. We're also seeking to identify the road requirements within the site, which isn't currently contemplated within the zoning bylaw, as well as create performance standards, which is going to regulate the community center as well. In addition to this, we're also seeking to rezone the eastern portion of the site, which is fronting onto County Road 41, to an arterial commercial exception zone. The purpose of this is just to identify the permitted uses that are going to be allowed within the site, as well as to address the parking ratios associated with it. It is our opinion that the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding land uses, and it's going to contribute to attainable housing and commercial uses on existing service land. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the county official plan and maintains the general intent and purpose of the town official plan. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. We'll start with council. Is there anybody on council has any questions with respect to the presentation that Mr. Hamlin has done this evening? Go ahead, Councilor Pinnell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Tyler, thanks a lot for this report. I'm just wondering, I noticed that we're going to be doing, or you're going to be doing a transportation study on this. Has that started yet? And if not, I'm just wondering what maybe Michael could answer as well. What's the proposal for Drive-In Road intersection? Because this is going to increase the traffic very, very much there. And I'm also concerned with the roadway coming out of the park onto 41 through that commercial area.
Through your worship, as part of the transportation impact study that was prepared as part of this application, there was the findings of the report found that there would need to be a right-hand turn lane associated within the site onto County Road 41. However, through the review by the traffic consultant, everything else was within standard requirements for timing and for leads, so they did not require any mitigation at this time.
Yep, go ahead, Councilor Pinnell.
Sorry, it's a left turn lane.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Is there any other questions or comments for Mr. Hamilton? Go ahead, Mr. Nopes.
Through your worship, just to build on Mr. Hamilton's comments. So the traffic impact study did identify that a dedicated left turn lane would be warranted for the commercial, I believe it was the commercial entrance into the site, essentially halfway through the depth of the lot. The long-term care facility site plan and site plan processing and traffic impact study identified an immediate need today, as it stands today, for a left turn lane at County Road 41 and Drive-In Road, just due to background traffic volumes alone, let alone the additional volumes of phase 2 and phase 3 and the long-term care facility itself. So the county has committed to undertaking that construction of that left turn lane. So the traffic study for the long-term care facility identified the need, and the county has agreed with that and has committed to installing that in their future roadworks within County Road 41, which is in the not terribly distant future. So that is coming, and at the same time, the county would be constructing the dedicated left turn lane into the commercial portion of this specific site. So hopefully that helps.
It does. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Is there any other questions or comments from council with respect to the presentation? Seeing none, I know we have a number of people in the body of the council chambers. Is there anybody here with respect to this application that has any questions with respect to the presentation that we've heard this evening? Or have your questions been answered? Or has it stirred up more questions? Seeing none. If there's nothing else, and I don't believe there is from your end, I don't believe, Michael.
Your worship, no, not at this time. I will note that staff undertook a thorough circulation of the public meeting this evening. Neighboring landowners within 120 meters of the site were sent direct mailing. We posted notices along the frontage, multiple notices along the frontage of the property. We have not had any comments or questions come in from the public at this time, but staff are not recommending any decision tonight. This is the public meeting, and we'll still continue to receive any comments from the public or council up until a decision. We're looking at bringing this back within a month's time, just to give council some indication on timing.
Yep, great. Thanks for that extra information there, Michael. If there's nothing else, we'll look for a motion to adjourn the public meeting under the authority of the Planning Act. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a good plan, and we look forward to seeing more information in the not too distant future. So, moving on to the deputation portion of our meeting. I don't believe we have any scheduled deputations with respect to new items, Madam Clerk, but I know that we do have a number of deputations with respect to items on the agenda. So we'll just let some people get out of the council chambers here, and then we'll move on to our deputation portion. Okay, so first up, we have a Todd Buchanan. Do we have a Mr. Buchanan? Come on up, sir. And he has a request with respect to utility bill relief with respect to his deputation. So, yep, come on up, sit down, grab a chair. I don't think you've been here before. So what we'll ask you to do is pull the mic up fairly close, and the button on the right, you'll have to hold it when you're speaking. As soon as you let go, then the people at home won't be able to hear what you're saying. So, and then I hear that they can't hear. So. Welcome, sir, and the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
First off, was everyone given the package that I sent to, everyone has that information?
I believe we did. Yeah, we have a package there from, yeah.
So the situation that occurred was that from the photos, you'll see a hot water tank that more or less exploded, creating a significant leak. You also have indications of the replacement of that water tank. And you also have a bill, which we regularly pay on time and accurately. You'll notice that for 2022, in the 10-12, the 57-day period was 17 consumption, 16, 15, 19, 17, 16, and then 255. So in light of the hot water tank issue, our consumption went up by over 15 times the regular amount, roughly. As a result, as a nonprofit registered charity, we are aware that there has been relief granted in the past to other nonprofit charities, specifically the church, I believe it's Mary Magdalene Church, as I read in your minutes in the past. So we are asking that you grant some reprieve regarding this matter. The event happened on November 15th. As you can see, the evidence or the documents pertaining to the hot water tank, the payment of the installation of a hot water tank to replace that, and then the subsequent bill of $1,145.22.
Great. Thank you, sir. Just have us stay seated if there's any questions from council. And I know we won't be making the decision right now at this portion of the meeting. It'll be coming back with a staff report, but we'll see if there's any questions first, and then we'll go from there. So does council have any questions of Mr. Buchanan with respect to the deputation that he's presented? Deputy Mayor Calver.
So you mentioned that this is a non-for-profit. Is that not a residential dwelling or a rental unit?
It is a rental, sorry, it is a rental unit. The address in the billing account is 350 Front Street in Belleville. So our organization is called Peer Support Southeast Ontario. We operate in 7 locations across Southeast Ontario, providing addictions and mental health support for individuals in Napanee and other areas. So it is a commercial unit. It is not residential. There are no residential units attached to it. The landlord, in our lease agreement, we were responsible for water, hydro, those types of things, and the replacement of the water tank. So we pay our own water, heat, hydro, etc. It is not a commercial unit. Sorry, it is a commercial unit. It is not a residential unit.
Okay, thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Is there any other questions of Mr. Buchanan before we allow him to go back into the body of the council chambers? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Oh, yep, go ahead.
Obviously, we're not looking for like full reprieve to a net zero. We're just looking for something that is comparable to previous bills we've had.
Okay, yeah, and if you want to hang tight, we're going to address this later on the agenda, so you're more than welcome to stick around, and we'll have further discussion then. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll look for a motion to note and receive the presentation of Todd Buchanan with respect to the request of utility bill relief. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next up, Jeff Chestnut, proposed land sale, item 9.2 on the agenda. Come on up, Jeff. Welcome. And I know that you know the procedure here, so I'll just remind you, just have to push and hold the button that's in front of you. I think it's probably new since the last time you were here. So, whenever you're ready, the button on the right. Yep. And whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Your worship, fellow councillors and staff members, I would like to thank you for your time tonight. I'm here representing people. When I campaigned in the previous election, multiple residents on Simcoe Street, Maryland Ave, and First Ave cited concerns over the possible loss of green space. I made a bit of a promise to multiple residents that I'd represent their cause, elected or not. I had residents take me up on my offer. So they kind of grouped it together so you don't get loaded down tonight with complaints and try and make it more efficient. So I've tried to keep it as simple and point form as I could. The first point that they have concern with is they see it hard to understand how a side overflow lot of 44 makes it any safer, because it would promote morning traffic. And if you check with a lot of schools, the hardest thing is trying to get parents and buses through the school at the same time. And no, it's not, it's a good idea and plan, but it just doesn't seem to work at most schools to have the parents come in at the same time as the buses. Many schools in the GTA and Toronto area have much less parking than this. At the moment, the school's webpage acknowledges that they have 20 staff members, and it seems that even with the expansion, 88 parking spots seems a bit excessive. The neighbors understand that there's 6 times a year where parents come to functions and they don't mind the parents parking on the street. It seems that you live with what you have in your area. There is also a feeling here, and this is where it gets a little complicated. There's a feeling that there'll be a property decline. And part of this is somewhere when this was built, the fence line got misplaced. And I have a survey that shows that it was acknowledged in 85 that the fence line is 3 feet onto municipal property, but nothing's being done about it. One of the neighbors said that the fencing's been up since the 70s. So the fence is 3 feet onto municipal property. I guess my biggest worry is that you will sell it to the school, and the school will be left with this conundrum of tearing down the fence and coming up with a fence plan with the different residences. Each fence was put up by a resident. And so you have different fencing and trying to tie it. I fenced in the past. I find it really hard how this happened, because usually the first thing you do as a fencing contractor is do the property stake locations. And this has happened about, I think it's about 6 houses that this falls into, where the stakes have been put onto the property owner's property. And so they view it, they're going to lose 3 feet that they thought they had, type thing. So there was also the idea, will they be allowed to purchase the property? Could they get a group to purchase the green land? Would that be an option if the property's up for sale? The land once had a baseball diamond and swing set, suggesting that it was recreational or green space. And if you look at it, it looks like it was the green space for that subdivision built at the time. And so if there is a ball diamond and a swing set, it must have been green space, which means, can we really switch it over to excess land? If it was first planned as green space, now it seems the town went in and acknowledged that it's part of their responsibility by removing the swing set and by removing the ball diamond, but then don't take responsibility on the fence line type thing. It's kind of the one point I would point out. The school board has announced that they're gonna, with the new plan, put landscaping to prevent the neighbors from seeing the new parking lot, or like helping with the visual appearance. And I've worked on school projects, and the best intention starts with drawings, but landscaping is the first thing to get cut when budgets go over. And with inflation these days, the property owners pretty much worry that would be cut quickly as costs inflate as you build schools and such. I have the slides. I was hoping you could blow them up a bit, but as you see in the first slide, there's a green square there, and that is a overflow swamp when they put in the school footprint. This is off the watershed of Ontario too. So there is a creek that comes up right before the school, and then it disappears and it reappears just south. We're in a landscape called the Napanee watershed plain, and we have the luxury of having limestone underneath us. The water perks and it acts like an Alka-Seltzer, and this is why we weren't affected by acid rain in the 80s as bad as most of Ontario. If you put the parking lot there, which I believe the land was engineered there as a water flow area. And it's hard to see this, but which one do I press to go ahead? the down arrow, sorry. Yeah, it's hard to, so you can see the houses that are going to be affected, but there's a house on the other side of the school driveway that gets flooded every few springs, depending on how much watershed comes down, because it actually goes underground behind those houses in that green space and then comes out the ditch. And there's a very steep point, and the neighbor there has had issues in the past with high water flow. So if we cut this water off from flowing down to the river, you're cutting off an area where wildlife spawn. It's a spawning point when you have water coming down to your river areas. And we're slowly cutting off this watershed as we develop. It just seems that you could be into more of a situation. If you come around the bend and you go onto Switzerville Road, there's actually a road built. The houses on Google Maps shows that they're on Switzerville Road, but they're actually not. There's a road that runs parallel with Switzerville Road. And if you go onto Google Map, I just was doing this today. I wish I had done it sooner. You'll see where they had to build a ditch to allow the water flow down there. So there is an abundance of water coming down through that area that needs to be shed. So I think one of the, make sure I got everything. One of the points I saw was no one uses the green space. And I would point out that like there's animals that use the green space. There's birds, chipmunks, there's rabbits, there's fox spotted. And underground, there's amphibious and minnow populations. And there's the medicinal effect of looking at such a green space. And so I think once again, we're overlooking the animals in light of having 44 over parking spots to fill overflow parking.
Are you getting close to the end,
Yeah,
Jeff?
I'm pretty close to the
I think
end.
we're up over the 5 minutes there.
Up
And
over, it's at 5 minutes
yeah,
out. Okay. And the point was, is there's natural trilliums growing along the fence lines in that now.
okay, great. No, thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you, Jeff. Is there any questions of Jeff before he leaves the front? Go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Thanks, Jeff, for coming in here. You're mentioning Switcherville Road, but did you really mean Simcoe?
County Road 1, is it?
Belleville
Belleville Road, my
Yeah.
mistake, Belleville Road.
Okay.
So when you go around and that, will it cut the trail off was my other point. Like if you turn it into a parking lot, that trail that you enter there, they won't want people coming across school property then. So that trail would be kind of eliminated, would it not?
And then my other question to you is, when you're talking about the stream, are you talking about the water that goes through the two buried culverts that are there? That are at that entrance that you're talking about?
Yes, yes. And see, it's mentioned in a couple of the web pages and that about how there's underground river systems in Napanee, and we've kind of built over top. You see some of the remnants of it down around the library is a good example where you see it. But it has to, if you go look at the watershed map, it has to come down underground at that point somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And you brought up a good point. I think we'll address it when we get to the staff report with respect to that trail, I think. So, but thank you for your time, and it's good seeing you again. So next up, Christine Dibb, proposed land sale, item 9.2. And yep, Christine's here. So come on up, Christine. And when you get ready, we'll sort of give you the rules of engagement, and we'll give you the floor. Welcome. Yep, the button on the right, you have to push it and you bring the microphone, hold it down, and only when you want people to hear what you're saying, which is probably most of it. So you got to hold it to talk, and when and then you release it, and then we can talk. But if you talk into the microphone, it's great. That way the folks at home can hear everything you're saying. So thank you and welcome, and the floor is yours.
So, good evening, Council. My name is Chris Dibb, and I'm a longtime resident of Napanee. This is my second deputation, to try and convince you to reconsider the sale of the parkland beside J.J. O'Neill Catholic School. My first deputation was on August 9th, 2022. It was presented to the previous council, so that's why I'm just going to give you a rundown because some of you might have missed it. Therefore, I'm going to give you Cole's notes of what I consider to be valid reasons why this green space needs to remain as is. On July 21st, 2022, there was a public notice in the Napanee Beaver that advertised this green space as surplus. My intent tonight, which would have been in 2022, is to make you realize why it is not surplus. I moved to Napanee in 1968. My address was Maryland Avenue, and my dad still lives there. That was the year I started using this parkland green space with all of the other kids in the neighborhood. In 1987, I bought a house on Simcoe Street, and I still live there, 35 years and counting, now 37. My kids were raised here and still use this park, and now my grandchildren use this green space whenever they visit, which is all of the time. That makes 4 generations that have used this park. We did start a petition that stated, the residents of this community respectfully ask that you reconsider the sale of the above-mentioned property. This park has been here over 60-plus years. It once had swings and slide, but they were removed by the town years ago and never replaced. It is also home to a ball diamond, which is used on a regular basis. The land is used daily by the people of Napanee. So there was copies of petition I gave to the last council. There was 5 pages. I think there was 66 names on it. I have it.
I think we may have seen it. I think we brought it forward so that members of council had an opportunity to see that weren't on the council last time. So yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So the public notice stated this property is landlocked, but to the north of this park is an old rail bed that used to run to Deserano. The town made this into a walking trail a few years ago. This path has upped the number of people using this park. I know I've used I and me numerous times in this deputation, but please know I am speaking for all of the people who have signed the petition, fly their kites, use the ball diamond, walk their dogs, and all of the kids and adults that use this park on a daily basis. This green space is a big part of their lives, and it would be a shame not to have access to it anymore. Live, play, discover. Those are the 3 words that really stood out to me on your website. If you take our park away, that will not be doable. Thanks for giving me the chance to speak, and I respectfully ask that you reconsider the sale of this land. Okay, so that was Deputation 1. So this is Deputation 2.
Okay.
I am very happy that JJ was the recipient of the grant money, and I've always considered them one of our neighbors. There was an article published in the Whig Standard that stated the Triangle property fell into disuse and the backstop was dismantled and the swing set was removed. First of all, the park is used more now than it ever was since the trail was made. And I have seen the backstop, and the backstop for the ball diamond is still there. I have seen the kids from JJ use the ball diamond in the warmer months. Just recently, on February 11th, 2024, there was a father and son doing some batting practice. There was a slide and a swing set, and it was removed, but honestly, they were old and rusty. It was time for them to go. Had I known at the time, I could have asked for a replacement, I would have, but just the thought of the park being there is enough. As Napanee grows and subdivisions are built, and parkland with very nice playground equipment is allotted to them, it seems very unfair that ours is being taken away and made into a parking lot. We want people to understand that J.J. O'Neill Catholic School has 2 options. No matter what happens, this addition to the school is going to happen. If the town chooses to sell our property, our park, it will give JJ 18 extra spots. 18. This is not going to make or break them. Just to note, the parking lot they use now still has empty spots through the day. I've been watching, so possibly they will have enough spots with the new addition and parking area included in option A, which in turn leaves our green space untouched. I'm also wondering why the land farther south of the school that the school owns hasn't been incorporated into their plans. I think they call it Peace Garden. It is busy in the mornings and after school, but what school doesn't have increased traffic? In October of 2022, the greater town of Napanee installed a 4-way stop on Maryland and Simcoe, which has really improved the flow of the traffic. And with the new design using either option A or B, the traffic will enter the school on Maryland Avenue and exit on First Avenue. This is going to keep the traffic moving at a quicker pace. Thanks for giving me the chance to speak again. I really hope the second time is a charm. And I again respectfully ask that you reconsider the sale of our park.
Great, thanks, Christine. Just hang tight for a second. We'll see if we have any questions from council with respect to your deputation. Is there any questions of Christine? Seeing none, you got off easy tonight, Christine. If you, again, it's going to, we're going to speak to this later in the agenda, so if you want to stick around there, you're more than welcome to. So, okay, yeah, thank you. We'll look for a motion to note and receive the proposed land sale deputation of Jeff Chestnut, as well as the proposed land sale presentation by Christine Dibb. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next up, we have Greater Napanee Pride proposed changes to the proclamation policy, 9.4, and I see Tiffany Lloyd's coming up to speak. So welcome, Tiffany. And I think you may have been here before, but if not, I think you probably understand the rules of engagement. All we ask is that you hold down the right button when you're talking so the folks at home can hear you. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
I've been here before, but I'm nervous like it's my first time. Your Worship, Council, I stand before you today, I sit before you today on behalf of Napanee Pride to address the proposed amendments to the flag and proclamation policies bylaw. I want to start by pointing out that town staff's report submitted with the proposal clearly recognizes the benefits of special events like celebrating Pride in the town. It also highlights the role of fostering a sense of belonging, ownership, and civic pride. Moreover, the report goes on to acknowledge the fact that the objectives of such events align very closely with the town's strategic priorities. Excuse me, as they champion and the importance of participation in civic celebrations as a foundation of a healthy, engaged community. In fact, many of the town's civic celebrations are organized and run by groups and non-for-profits. These organizations are made up of volunteers dedicated to making the town a better place to live. They partner with the town and local businesses to help create a healthy and engaged community that the town says it's committed to working towards. In the process, collectively, we bring in money to the local economy and enhance a town's aesthetic appeal while promoting a message of engagement. It is estimated by the Ontario Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport through their TREM model that Greater Napanee Pride brought in around $100,000 in local spending last year. The proposed amendments threaten to undermine the collaborative spirit by introducing barriers to participation. The imposition of additional taxes, fees, restrictive zones for non-for-profits, and time limits on art installations contradicts the very objectives of the town's strategic plan and the communal ethos we've worked so hard to build. Given the fact that we're working towards a designated strategic priority for the town, we believe we should be encouraged and supported to continue this great work, not exploited for extra fees that might be extracted from such events. And these extra fees are currently significant. For example, if Napanee Pride wants to employ police for route control and security, we have to pay. If we want to use the town's meeting halls, we have to pay. If we want to use the town's parks or baseball diamonds, we have to pay. And if we use the Strathcona Paper Center facilities, we have to pay, and the list goes on. Every time we go into the town office to make a request to host an event, we pay. In fact, Napanee Pride is funded by donations from individuals and organizations that think they're helping to support Napanee Pride when in fact thousands of dollars every year are being handed over to the town for services that taxpayers are already funding through various taxes, user fees, and special levies. So the idea that an additional $450 is a reasonable amount to collect for putting up banners is at best subjective and does not take into account the significant amount of money that we and other non-for-profits are already handing over to the town to get anything done in Napanee. A big issue we have with the proposed amendments is the distinctions or the restrictions being considered. So Napanee Pride is one of the few community-driven initiatives whose prime objectives are visibility and education. If passed, we believe that the proposed amendments will not only bring greater financial hardship for our participation, but will hit directly at our organization's mission. Collaboration and community participation are values Napanee Pride embodies through every initiative it undertakes, especially our Pride Crosswalk. This art installation is a year-round symbol of inclusivity and acceptance that comes at no cost to the town. Thanks to the overwhelming support we have received from our local businesses and individuals. However, under the proposed amendments, it is possible that painting the crosswalk every June and then painting it over again every July will cost us, the organization, around $5,000 a year. Another issue we have is the banning of banners on Dundas Street, our main parade route. We had 400 people walk that route last year. It was a powerful demonstration of unity and support from our community that was visibly enhanced by the presence of those banners. Those banners are not just decorations. They are a vital part of our message that everyone is welcome here. By restricting them, we not only diminish the visual impact of our parade, but we send a discouraging message to those who look at these events as a symbol of acceptance and support. So in summary, I urge you to consider the broader implications of these amendments. Let us not erect barriers, but we should be building bridges. I appeal to you to vote no to the proposed changes to preserve the spirit of participation and inclusivity that defines Greater Napanee. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Tiffany. Just hang tight. Is there any questions or comments from council with respect to Tiffany's presentation? Councillor Hicks.
I'm sorry, through your worship. Tiffany, I'm sorry, and maybe Jessica, you can answer this for me. Where did it say that it had to be painted over?
So
I
actually,
quite like the crosswalk, to be honest. It's nice when the snow melts in the winter and you can see just that little bit of color there. So I'm just, what section is that where they're being asked to paint over it? I'm assuming paint it black?
So through your worship, I have realized the policy and staff reports were not as clear as they should have been. It's definitely not our intent to make crosswalks be painted over. There was some language around temporary art installations needing to be removed at the end of this celebration. That would be on a case-by-case basis, depending on the nature of the art. There are certain things that, if they're not intended to be permanent, they start to degrade or flake off. If I believe there are provisions within the policy that as long as we can keep connecting on an annual basis to refresh things and they don't fall into a state of disrepair, staff's intent was to be supportive of keeping those year round. And I do apologize for any lack of clarity on my part in drafting these documents.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So everybody's clear on that then? Okay, good. That was my only comment there. Thank you.
Sorry. Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there Councillor Pennell?
Through you, thank you, Your Worship, to Madam Clerk. With what was just mentioned, then that would also be true to the Greater Napanee sign that's down in the park, and also the picnic tables that have been painted. Would that stay true as not being temporary art installations?
So through your worship, we can get more into that at the time of the staff report. This really is a point for speaking to the delegations. I will say picnic tables are contemplated specifically within that policy. There are some provisions that if they fall into disrepair and we cannot coordinate a time to get them repainted, or if the local nonprofit says they're no longer interested in continuing to do that, then at that point in time, the town would revert them back to their original appearance.
Thanks, Councillor Pennell, and thanks, Madam Clerk. You're absolutely right. I think we could probably delve deeper into some of that stuff when we get to the staff reports. So is there any other questions of Tiffany while she's at the front table? Go ahead, Councillor Nori.
Yes, Tiffany, thank you for your talk. Don't doubt your figures at all, but remember when we were at BIA, it was hard to find out exactly how you make money. Where did you get the $100,000 from? I'm just curious because we're trying to find out from other groups when they say they can get this much money into the town. Where do those figures come from, please? And I don't doubt them, but I'm just curious.
No, I understand. And so that is why the Ontario Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport has essentially a form online that you fill out with all of the details, what percentage of individuals came from out of town, how many individuals were in town, therefore how many stayed in hotels. And we can verify that with a lot of the hotel bookings. We booked them. So how long individuals were staying, how many people were at any particular event. And so it is a little bit of an estimate, but because obviously we didn't walk into Starlit and say, how much money did you make today? But it's a strong estimate from the data that we have.
Thanks, Councillor Nori. Is there anything else before we let Tiffany get back into the council chambers? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion to note and receive the deputation with respect to Greater Napanee Pride proposed changes to the proclamation policy. Moved by Councillor Pennell, seconded by Councillor Nori. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Correspondence items on the agenda. I know we've had an opportunity and we've got a number of items, correspondence with respect to the items on the agenda. Comments opposed to the sale of land, item 9.2. Comments in support of sale of land, item 9.2. And other comments regarding proposed land sale, 9.2. Is there anything in those pieces of correspondence somebody would like to pull out and have a conversation about? Or, yep, Councillor Hicks.
Through your worship. Yes, I was actually looking to pull the letter from the Township of Renfrew.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
later
sorry.
on. Yeah, we're in a completely different part here. So, but now that you've mentioned it, I will watch for it and I'll let you know. So these are basically the correspondence or letters we received with respect to the sale of the piece of property up by the school there. So if there's nothing anybody wants to pull out and have a conversation with, we'll look for a motion to note and receive all the correspondence received regarding the proposed land sale, items 6.3.1 through 6.3.3. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Comments regarding proposed proclamation policy update 9.4. I know we've had a number of comments that come in with respect to that. Is there anything there that somebody would like to pull out and take notice of or make mention of? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion to note and receive that correspondence as well. So correspondence regarding proposed proclamation policy update. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Unfinished business. I don't believe we have any unfinished business, Madam Clerk, that I know of. The administrative consent agenda, and we'll go through these. We can go through these one by one, and then we'll do a motion at the end. The council minutes for the regular session of council, February 13th, 2024, and the special session of council, February 20th, 2024. Is there anything in those minutes that anybody would like to bring attention to or have a conversation about? Seeing none. The committee minutes of the Municipal Heritage Committee. Is there anything in there? And Councillor Martin, is there anything you'd like to highlight with respect to that meeting?
No, I'll let the report speak much for itself. It was quite a good meeting we had the last time, and we went through a lot of things. But the report pretty much covers everything. So,
okay, yep, no, that's great. Thanks, Councillor Martin. The Memorandum of Authority condenser purchase. Is there anything in that report? And I know we heard about it last meeting. Is there anything in that report that anybody would like to bring to attention or have a conversation about? Seeing none. The Infrastructure Services 2023 Annual Drinking Water and Wastewater Report. Is there anything in that report someone would like to highlight or speak to? Seeing none. The 2023 Council Remuneration Report. Is there anything in there that Council would like to highlight or speak to? Seeing none. Activity report, financial services, February of 2024. Is there anything in the financial services report that anyone would like to ask of Ellen or would like to address? Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did speak to Nathan about this just because he happened to be manning the front desk today, but this is for Ellen and Nathan. Is it possible for the accounts payable listing to group that by cost center as opposed to just alphabetically? And I think Nathan may have mentioned this to you. I don't know if he did or not. Didn't have a chance? Okay. It's nothing urgent. And I know it's like extracting the data and pivot tables and all that good stuff, but for me, having the cost center allocated to the spend makes it more sense to me rather than just an alphabetical listing. So it was just a quick question about that. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Hicks, did you want to comment, Ellen?
Sure, I can just comment that that's certainly something we can look at. If we can pull the report that way, I suspect that's something we can do.
Great, thanks. Thank you, ladies. The activity report, infrastructure services, February 2024. Is there anything in that report, Councillor Padal?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to make a mention to everybody's listening at home is that the spring giveaway date is April 20th for this year, and that was contained in that report.
Great, thanks, Councillor Padal. That's always a successful event from what I hear anyway, so. Is there anything else with respect to infrastructure services, or if not, we'll move on. Seeing none, activity report, fire department, February 27, 2024. Is there anything in the fire department report that anybody wants to highlight or question or ask? Seeing none. Activity report, legislative services, February 2024. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to highlight or bring to anybody's attention? Councillor Hicks.
Through you, Your Worship, I would just like to advise the public as a reminder that there is an open house on March 18th at 99 Advance Ave from 5 to 7 p.m. regarding the implementation proposed, let me rephrase that, proposed implementation of the municipal accommodation tax. So I have seen many comments on social media about this, and if you actually want to learn the facts, I would suggest you read the page or attend the meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Pinnell.
Thank you, Worship. A question to Madam Clerk. The E11 reports that we used to get, are we going to be getting those back?
Through Your Worship, yes, I believe you will. I do apologize for the lack of them on this agenda. Our IT department staff who would normally generate that report have been otherwise occupied the last couple months, but it is on our radar to get that back in front of you.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure that all of council can understand that the IT department has been very busy. I was just wondering and hoping that we were still going to have those, but thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Pinnell. Is there anything else with respect to legislative services? Councillor Shank, go ahead.
This is a curveball. Sorry, this is not for infrastructure services. This was basically what I want to say for, well, it is for infrastructure services. It's annual drinking water report. When you read it, it went through fairly quickly, but I want to just give a kudos out to the staff that are providing potable water for this municipality. We know that there's going to be an expansion with the waste management, but if people would understand Greater Napanee or just Napanee, you have 564 million gallons of treated water that they went ahead and did and didn't have one bad problem with the potable water for Napanee. So you just figure how much 564 million gallons and you didn't slip up once. So that's, I think, and then on the sewage side, all right, because there's one side in, there we go, 730 million gallons. All right, which is 29% higher than treated water flows at the ALFDO water treatment plant. All right, it's 83% of the design capacity. They're working on it. I just want to give a kudos out for the staff and what you guys have done. I know we went through a lot of these reports really quick, but hey, I'll give credit where credit's due, and I think it was a fantastic job.
Thanks, thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there anything else with respect to legislative services? If not, we'll move on to community and corporate services. Seeing none, community and corporate services activity report, February 27th, 2024. Is there anything in that report that someone would like to highlight or speak to or address? Seeing none. And finally, the activity report for growth and expansion, February 27, 2024. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to address or speak to? Seeing none. So we'll look for a motion, and bear with me, it'll be a fairly long one, that council consent to the approval of the following routine items. Council.
Through your worship, Councillor Hicks had a request to pull item 3 from the correspondence for information to be considered separately.
Yeah, sorry, that's how good my memory is these days. So go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Through you, your worship, yes, I was looking to have the correspondence, now that I'm on the right page, so to speak, from the municipality of Renfrew, county of Renfrew, regarding affordability of wastewater treatment. And I'd like to support their resolution. So Jessica very kindly gave me some wording. If you would like me to read it out loud, or or Jessica could read it.
I'll give you the floor if you're comfortable to do it.
Sure.
And then we'll put it by via motion.
The resolution that council support the motion from the county of Renfrew advocating to the province and provincial and federal government to examine the sustainability and affordability of rural and small urban water and wastewater systems, and further that council direct that a letter of support for this motion be sent to the county, pardon me, County of Renfrew, the provincial and federal government, our local MP, MPP, the AMO, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and FCM. And I do believe that the clerk has all of the applicable names there. Thank you.
I believe so. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And now we'll move on to a motion to note and receive the items that were in the administrative consent agenda. Council consent to the approval of the following routine items: council minutes, regular session of council February 13, 2024, and special session of council February 20th, 24. Committee minutes of the Municipal Heritage Committee for the February 15th, 2024. Correspondence for information items dated February 27th, 2024. Memorandum of Authority condenser purchase, the SR 409-2024 Infrastructure Services 2023 Annual Drinking Water and Wastewater Report, SR 422-2024-2023 Council Remuneration Report, and their activity reports for Financial Services, Infrastructure Services, Fire Department, Growth and Expansion, Legislative Services, and Community and Corporate Services for the month of February 2024. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? This motion's carried. Thanks, folks. Up next, we'll move on to (9.1) request for bill forgiveness. And I see Mr. Murphy coming up. Are you going to speak to this first, Nathan?
Through your worship, I will add some comments to this. So this is the report in front of you is going to be very similar to the one you saw 2 months ago, I believe now, or maybe 3, in regards to the church. Staff are coming back with similar direction in this, that there is some concerns on how it operates currently and the ability for political bias, unfortunately, in the way it's processed, as well as it just creates a little bit of uncertainty of staff when we are dealing with these requests and what should be coming forward to council and what should not. There is a policy appended for council's discretion, and we can make adjustments to that as they see fit if needed, but there is certainly a push from staff to either move forward with nothing in terms of, we're not giving relief at all, or implement some sort of guidelines or policy for staff to have discretion with, or what does come forward to council, so we're not continuously making assumptions on our end.
Great, thanks, Nathan. Who wants to start, I guess? Where do we want to go with this with respect to the relief portion? Deputy Mayor Calver first, and then we'll go to Councillor Norrie.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So Nathan, this company is claiming to be a not-for-profit. But when I look through it, it kind of looks more like a business. I'm just confused as to how it becomes a non-for-profit.
Through your worship, I can double check to verify if they're registered not-for-profit. I'm going to have to take the individual's word on that, unfortunately, but I do believe it is an NPO. I can look up their business number if needed. Yeah, if that's what's in question.
So what did do you remember what we did for the church?
Through your worship, we did a relief on the sewer portion so that the amount in the financial implications of this report is what would be the equivalent as to what we did with the church. So their bill was higher, but the same impact in terms of relief.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Galber. I think Councillor Norrie.
Yes, I wasn't part of the last one due to a conflict, obviously, but non-for-profit, it's not a residence, which means people don't go downstairs every day, so I can see these things happening. So I'm in full favor of giving them some forgiveness of something, being non-for-profit.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Norrie. Is there any Councillor Hicks?
Through you, your worship, just for clarification, may I direct a question to Mr. Buchanan?
Sure. If that's why we're here. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you'd like to come up, Mr. Buchanan.
Yeah, you'll have to come up front so the people at home can hear the answer. So
I'm just wondering if you could take one moment. Okay, 2 minutes max, because we are on a timeline. Just to give a bit more information about what it is you're doing. I think I understand what you're doing, but just so the broader community understands. Thank you.
Absolutely. So our organization, Peer Support Southeast Ontario, registered nonprofit charitable organization in Napanee specifically. So we have support centers, peer support centers across Southeast Ontario, which I mentioned. Specifically in Napanee, we operate from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We offer services for individuals with mental health and or addictions, or individuals who may need food security. So we offer a free lunch at noon. We have groups activities, coffee, social recreational activities. So as mentioned, the leak that occurred was in our basement. We were only accessing the building 5 hours a day. So in terms of service to the community, we do an awful lot. We see probably Napanee is one of our busiest places. We have Bancroft, Madoc, Belleville, Trenton, Napanee, Kingston, and Napanee is probably our third busiest location. We see probably upwards approximately, just going back on statistical data, about 500 to 600 visits a month. So we are definitely a part of the community. We're downtown. A lot of people don't know about us, but we do exist and we do help a great number of people in the community.
Through your worship, may I ask a follow-up?
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
So this next question, do you receive referrals from the crisis team located with the OPP? That may not be the technical name, but you know, there's the impact. Thank you.
Yes.
And do you work sort of hand in glove with Morning Star Mission? Do they send people to you who they feel may benefit from your services? So this is a in this day and age, a desperately needed service. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I can say absolutely it's desperately needed.
Yeah.
I'd love to take time to fully explain all of the services we offer, and I can probably do that pretty quick. We are tied to hospitals in Kingston, Kingston, Brockville, and Belleville. So we have a program where people are discharged from hospital that are matched with someone in the community, not a center. We have virtual peer support, and we have, specifically to your question though, we do not require referrals. It is a walk-in service, but it's structured, right? So some people call things a drop-in. You can just drop in, but there are things that are structured throughout the day. We do have cross individuals with Morning Star Mission. We do have and have had the provincial police for Lennox and Addington drop or bring people to our service. In terms of crisis, we don't deal specifically in crisis work. We are based in recovery, focused on people who are well enough to attend. We have a code of conduct that we expect people to abide by. Unfortunately, there are locations where that isn't the reality. However, we do operate in the community and provide a very valuable service from my perspective.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Shank.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we further, council authorize a sewer relief adjustment in accordance with the terms of the prior sewer relief policy to this applicant. That's what we did to the St. Magdalene. This is a nonprofit. I believe they should have be dealt with the exact same way.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hicks. You're going to make that by way of motion then? Sorry, Councillor Shank, sorry. Yeah, it's been a long night already. So Councillor Shank, you're going to make that by way of motion. Yeah. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Carver, you're going to second it?
Yes, I'll second that, but I also want to make a comment. When I was talking to you earlier, I was in Dundas west, not east, so that's where my confusion come from. So I want to clarify that with you. So yes, I definitely support that and second it.
Great. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through your worship, I was going to confirm the wording of the motion that is on the floor, but it looks like the Deputy Treasurer wishes to make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Nathan, then we'll
Through your
confirm the
worship.
motion.
So if this is the continued practice the council would like to follow through, as Deputy Mayor Calver asked, is this an MPO? We currently don't have a process in place on how we evaluate what comes forward to council. So there was no verification required. We simply had the request and brought it forward. If that's how council would like us to proceed, that NPOs would be brought forward, or this is where it becomes difficult for staff to determine what is coming forward to council and what is not. And I think that's why we're trying to find more guidelines or a little more clear procedure on what would that be.
So sorry, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So when you go back in the older books, when the municipality years ago used to offer this service, does that give you any guidance of what you need, or do you need more guidance?
I think Madam Clerk would like to comment.
Through your worship, per the discussions we had last fall, staff were able to very clearly identify what, under the old policy, what amounts sewer relief was provided for, specifically that it was any sewer consumption over and above the normal water consumption and tied to a specific incident. However, there were not, that policy was officially discontinued in 2013. There were not typical guidelines that you would see maybe in other municipalities that this is specifically for nonprofits only, or that this is not intended to be for commercial businesses, or that there has to be it has to be over a specific minimum threshold, that you wouldn't be doing this for a $50 adjustment. It would have to be a minimum of at least 4 or 5 times what somebody's normal consumption was. That's sort of some of the policy direction that staff does not have right now as it stands right now. If we receive a request for utility relief, we are recommending it come forward as a deputation because we don't have a different process.
Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So if you could go, the finance department could talk to infrastructure for the water billing and saying, what do you feel, because you get the complaints all the time, to see what, and bringing it to a policy, to go bring it back to a council for us to go ahead and say, yeah, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, and sit down with the water and the sewage and say, hey, what was done in the past, what worked, what didn't work. For me, doing this twice a month, maybe 3 times, to come up and start setting policies without any guidance from you guys would be, I think, unfair and erroneous to you guys. So if you guys could bring that back, that'd be great.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Through your worship, there is a policy appended to this report that's kind of what we're trying to use as that baseline. Is there adjustments that we could make to that policy that would fit within the confines of what you're looking for? When I look back at the resolution from the previous relief, and I believe that's kind of where it's going in this situation, is that it's going to be for the broader, greater good of the community, which is fine. It just becomes difficult for staff to determine what council deems the broader greater good of the community, because what I believe that to be and what council believes that to be could be drastically different things, unfortunately. I'm not saying that's the case in this, but I don't want to have to make assumptions, and I don't want other staff to have to make assumptions on behalf of council.
Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So not to belabor this point, but the point is anybody who's on water and sewer, I'm not personally on water and sewer, but if somebody's on water and sewer, this is a senior citizen, let's say, you know what I mean? And they happen to go somewhere or visit somebody over the weekend and something went on. And all of a sudden they come back. It used to be that a person was allowed to put one claim for forgiveness only for the sewage part, all right, once every so many years, all right? But I hate to go ahead and not leave the customer, all right, that's on water and sewer without any means of appealing their fine, you know, their bill, or just simply saying, that's too bad, so sad, that's your problem, not my problem. You know what I mean? I don't think us as a community should be at least a bit compassionate. You know, there's probably some that might want to abuse it, but all I'm saying is they should have the opportunity to go ahead and say, hey, the sewer relief portion of their bill, all right, should be looked into. And I think, you know, for what, that's my only belief, but unless everybody thinks differently, and let the staff go over it and something that is, you know, palatable for all parties concerned. You know what I mean? If you could do something like that, that would be great. That's the way I feel.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So through your worship, I think what I am hearing is that staff will go back and rework the draft policy. There is a motion on the floor right now tonight. And if there's no other discussion, I can read that out for council's consideration.
Let's hear the motion that's on the floor, because I suspect that we may want to tweak it. I sense from that motion that we are going to honor some relief for this gentleman tonight, but we need to probably suspend any more reliefs until we have a proper policy that's written down and authorized by council. Am I correct there? Is that where we're going with it? Let's hear what the motion that Madam Clerk has got made by Councillor Shank.
So through your worship, following the same template as the motion that was passed in November, the motion is the council receive for information request for utility bill forgiveness. Report further, council affirm as a general policy the past resolution number 91/13 that the practice of providing sewer relief for high utility bills due to leaks remain terminated, and that the only relief be provided through the continuation of customer-friendly payment plans, and further that council grant a specific exemption to this policy to Peer Support Southeast Ontario on the grounds that this exemption is in the best interest of the broader community because the applicant is a not-for-profit which provides services to the community. And further, the council authorizes a sewer relief adjustment in accordance with the terms of the former sewer relief policy to this applicant.
I sense that's very similar to what we did with the church. Am I correct?
That is nearly identical to the motion that was passed for the church. We are just swapping out the name of the person receiving the relief.
Now, do you need any further guidance with respect to moving forward? The staff, are they going to require any further guidance? I mean, it sounds like our policy probably needs to be cleaned up and needs to be straightened around a little bit. Am I correct there?
Through your worship, I think we can bring back the policy as a standalone item, and that may work better rather than it being tied to a specific request in that council meeting. So it appears as independent, and then we can bring it back for discussion. And that way we make it a more wholesome discussion on what exactly council is looking for, rather than it being tied specifically to that request for that evening. It might work a little better.
And do we need any indication or any instruction whether we, just to be the devil's advocate, if we receive another request tomorrow, should we suspend any other requests until such time as that new policy be brought back to us?
Through your worship, we have the ability to basically put these on hold if we need to. So if we want to enact the policy and wait for that relief to come forward after the fact to council, we can do that. Or if you would prefer, we deal with that prior to. I just have no way of knowing when those requests are going to come, unfortunately.
Okay, if there, I guess, we're on a slippery slope here, where we just continue to go backwards in time, as opposed to if there's something wrong with our policy, we should fix it. That's, I think, paramount. So I just don't want to continue to be in the position that we are in tonight. If you're comfortable enough that you don't need that in a resolution, then that's fine. And you know that you don't need us to instruct you to bring back an updated, cleaned up policy. That's fine. We'll deal with the resolution that's on the floor, I believe, tonight for this gentleman here. So, Madam Clerk.
Through your worship, I was just going to say, after consideration of this specific motion about providing relief to this specific application, council could always pass another motion if you wanted to direct staff with respect to a policy.
I do like that idea personally. So we've got a motion on the floor. Let's call the vote on this first, and then we'll address the second part of it. So everyone understands the motion that's on the floor. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And does anyone wish to entertain making a second motion with respect to the policy? Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So I'd like to ask Nathan and Christie or Peter, whoever answers that, how long would it take you to come up and with Jessica to come up with a policy? 60 days, 30 days, you know?
Through your worship, we have drafted a policy. If there's adjustments you would like made, it's at the stage where if there's certain specific items council would like adjusted, we're looking for feedback at this point in time. So there is a policy appended to this report. If there's items that we have missed that council believes or that need to be changed, we can absolutely go about that. But the framework within itself, staff believe, is there for council's decision or guidance or adjustment if needed.
Yep, good, Councillor Shank. I think Madam Clerk wants to speak to as well. So go ahead.
The only reason why is we could be here for 2 hours on this topic alone, because from A to E, the questions that were asked, like, is the maximum adjustment threshold of 5,000 should be altered? Well, I have never had a water and sewer bill. Like, what is the threshold of $5,000? You know what I mean? Is that the total bill? So, I mean, I have a lot of other questions. So I could like to go in my own time to sit down, you know what I mean, rather than going through a whole learning curve. All right. So I can understand this and maybe a little bit more palatable. All right. If you want to have it dealt with that way, then fine. So I'll put a hold on it for 30 days while we discuss if that's what you want. So nothing else comes on our table.
I think I think that's fair. We can have it brought back. The draft policy that's there now. I think you're right, Councillor Shank, in the fact that we do need to put some time and effort into it. There's nothing to say that once we read through this and dissect it a little bit more, even on our own time, that we can't send those comments to staff and they can adjust the draft policy. That's if it needs to be adjusted, the one that's before us this evening. But I have no problem bringing it back, probably, if not at the next meeting, maybe the meeting after. And it'll be, probably fairly close to what we're looking for, especially if council provides input to staff over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Councillor Hicks.
Through you, your worship, I'm thinking, for me at least, and perhaps for the rest of the council and the public, when you come back with, when you're looking at this policy, if you can pull like 2 or 3 examples. Okay, here's your average household of 4 people. Here's a nonprofit who's seeing 600 people, and probably the bathroom gets a fair amount of use, and the kitchen, I'm guessing, where you see these examples and we can just see what the sewer rate is, like what the dollar figure is that we're talking about. Just, I don't think it has to be part of the policy, but to put things into context so you have like a scenario that you can actually wrap your head around would be helpful, at least for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. I don't think we've got a motion, do we? I don't think so. Councillor Shank, did you wish to bring the report back in 1 month with respect to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that council give all the questions to answer some of the questions that you've had here from an AT, because I could answer some of them right here. I still believe that it should be able to come to council rather than going to the CAO or if a person has the right to repent, we're the representative, so let's do that one. But we'll give it the 30 days and away we go.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Madam Clerk, do you have what's required for that motion?
Through your worship, I believe we're looking that council directs staff to bring forward a draft policy for consideration to establish the parameters under which the town will and will not provide relief for high utility bills within the next 30 days.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hicks. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Next up, the Algonquin. I think, Madam Clerk, we've been at this for about an hour and a half. Do you want to take a 10-minute break? Okay, I know I could use a 10-minute break. So sorry, folks. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We're going to be back about 8:40. So thanks so much. Welcome back, everybody. Moving on through the agenda, we're up to 9.2. If you're following at home, Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board requests to purchase Maryland Avenue property for the expansion of J.J. O'Neill Catholic School. I know with this, we've seen this in over a course of two terms of council now. And I think we've probably seen about as much information as we can. Who from council wants to start with respect to the conversation we're going to have with respect to whether we're going to sell this piece of property or not? Councillor Norrie, go ahead.
I guess I'll start because it's my ward, but just on a different note, Saturday I did a walk around to talk to a lot of the neighbors, not some that were boarding on the property, but other streets. Parking is not an issue when parents drop their kids off or visit their kids. None of them want to get rid of their park. I got a letter from the engineer, Mr. Brian, I think his name's Davies, from the school board. If they sell it, they have 98 parking spots, or if we sell it. If we don't sell it, they have 68 for 330 kids in the daycare. So they still have a lot of parking. So my recommendation will be that we take it off the list and not sell it. That'll be my vote anyways.
Great. Thank you for starting off, Councillor Norrie. Who wants to go next? Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, when the school board was here talking, they said they would build this expansion with or without that piece of property. As we've heard, there's a lot of people in the community that piece of property means a lot. We've heard about, waterways and runoff and so on and so forth. And I'd be against selling this piece of property.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I just, a few comments I want to make about it. I mean, I've known that piece of property for a very long time. My kids have played over there in the past themselves. It's part of the green space for that area of the community, as far as I'm concerned. We usually try to set aside a green area for each subdivision. And I think that's a long time set property there for that entire area, not just the folks who back onto it, but that whole area over there. So I'm going to be in favor of the town retaining the property and not selling it. And basically that's all my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Shank.
All right, here I go. I'm the bad one tonight. So the way I look at it, straight as a business proposition, the municipality is growing, which is great. All right. Geographically, you have a little triangle here or a triangle piece of green space that it's, there's no parking, there's no structures on it right now. If you sell it, all right, you'll have the parking area there, the way they're going to design it. And you're not going to have the amount of traffic or the traffic that's going to go down First Avenue, because I've had First Avenue residents say, I don't want to have that extra traffic coming down my road. So the point is you're darned if you do and darned if you don't. But the point is that school's going to have to grow, and it will continually grow as the municipality increases, and it'll have to expand even further. The one thing that a lot of the residents, that a lot of people have said to me, and another lady that just spoke to me here just recently, they went ahead and that the walkway that, or the old rail bed that people are using, they like to cut down through there and go through that green space so they don't have to get on Belleville Road or they're possibly getting hurt as the traffic increases. So what I'm thinking is that I'm more inclined to sell the property, let the school grow, have the parking area where it is. There's still 56 feet from the edge of the parking lot to the fence line of where the back end of the residents are of that area. Create with a site plan agreement, all right, when they build it, that they build a high and dry walkway off the rail bed, all right, that goes through that property, so they don't, the people that are walking and using the trail, part of their walkway, they don't have to go to Belleville Road. That was the number two. And whatever the property sells for is kept in escrow for those residents as the municipality grows and they need you know, a play structure or a structure that the community needs in that area. I know the fairgrounds is fairly close, but that was green space that was designed years ago for those residents there. So when another piece of property is developed close to that area, all right, they would have the money for that playground equipment or for whatever to do the needs of that community of that area, not be used in any other part of the municipality. So there's my sales pitch, or my tweak on it is I'm trying to find a happy medium for the school as it grows, because it's growing immensely, all right? Was that the perfect area in a residential neighborhood? Maybe not, maybe yes, I'm not sure. But the point is we're dealt the hand that we are dealt with. Would that green space ever be used? Because I had friends that lived there, and I would be in the back of that for numerous evenings and watching were anybody using it or not using it. So all I'm saying is maybe this is a happy medium that the money is kept, you create a walkway, you get the park, you keep the traffic in as it grows, and people are not parked out on Maryland or having a problem with First Avenue. So that's my sales pitch.
Thanks, Councillor Schenk. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, your worship. First of all, I'd like to thank Michael for taking the time earlier tonight. I am a visual person and I needed to see the plans, both option A and option B. And for the report, because as always, you were very thorough, very diligent, and completely objective, I think. So, having said that, I am going to be in favor of removing this property from the surplus list. Once burnt, twice shy. So the day, I don't know if everybody remembers the trail. I'm still traumatized from that. I think if we have surplus green space, it's not surplus, it's green space, and it should be kept that way. And I think there's many things that we could do with that property to enhance the access to the rail bed trail that will take you all the way over to Canvers Way. It goes right past the fairgrounds. The school playground equipment is available to anyone that wants to use it. I spent many a year playing at Prince Charles in the summer and after school because that was the closest playground to our house. So yes, I do believe that it should be removed from the surplus list. Not just not sold, but removed from the surplus list. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, worship. Doesn't sound like I should get myself into any more trouble than I have been. So, but I'm in favor of selling the land to the school. I took a nice walk up there on Sunday. I do have to give one kudos out. I thought that I would find more evidence of people walking their dog there and the things they leave behind, but I was remarkably surprised that there wasn't as much as I thought, which was nice. As Councillor Hicks says, the Educational Act stipulates that anybody can use a schoolyard after hours. There's more equipment, play equipment on that school grounds than we could, as a council, ever fathom to budget to put on that park. I saw many basketball nets fastened to the school wall. I saw a basketball court with nets at both ends, a skating rink, a reflection area that people could study or meditate, I guess, or whatever, volleyball nets, and another baseball diamond. There was lots of stuff there for people to enjoy the green space. I think as Councillor Schenk said, his ideas were fantastic with putting monies away and doing everything. I support everything he says. This is where I get myself into trouble. I'm not sure, but I have a really bad concern, of having a public park beside a school. And I think that needs to be addressed and taken away. So we should sell this land to the schoolyard and foster the growth. And I think that before I start babbling, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Pennell. Deputy Mayor Cower.
Dave, nothing, or Counselor Vanella, nothing you've said is wrong. My only concern and my only problem I have is we sell this chunk of land now. What do we do 25 years down the road? What chunk of land do we sell them then? If they want to expand some more and some more and some more, where do we draw the line at what land we sell and don't sell? Again, played in that park when I was a kid. I've been living in this town all my life, and it's been a very important piece of land to the locals up there. I'm surprised when you tell me that the school can be used for any time in the public. Back years ago when we were kids playing there, they had signs up, no trespassing, trespassers would be prosecuted. Now, I did take a drive up to the school. I don't see those signs. However, Prince Charles still has them, and so does NDSS. So as kids growing up, we had respect for the fact you don't play on the school ground because sign says not to. I don't know when that changed or what, I don't know. I do know that, this park's been there for a long time, and the longtime residents have had thorough enjoyment out of it, and I don't think that we as council should take that away from them.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
Not to belabor it, okay for a motion? Sir?
I do have a suggestion for you if you want me to give that to you from what I'm hearing, but go ahead.
Well, I'd like to put a recorded vote motion that we remove this land in question from the surplus property list and not sell it. Pretty simple.
Madam Clerk, do you have what you need, or do you want me to clean that up a little bit?
So through your worship, the motion would be that council rescind resolution number 357/22 and remove from the surplus listing the land described as instrument number as outlined in the staff report.
That's exactly what I said, yes.
Councillor Norrie has put a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll just weigh in briefly. And green spaces are extremely important to our municipalities. As far as I'm concerned, they're the antibiotic that cures our neighborhoods. And once they're gone, they're gone. Somebody said to me many years ago that when the waterfront property is gone, it's gone. You can't make any more of it. And I like to compare that to the green spaces as well. They don't necessarily have to have swing sets on them. They don't necessarily have to have teeter-totters, but they are important to our municipality for folks to get out and walk, and connects neighborhoods together. And I think that's what this piece of green space will do, because like I say, there's some plans that are before County Council with respect to some road study. They may not happen in my time, but they may. And there's a trail that's right along there, and this piece of green space can connect that trail to the sidewalks on Simcoe Street. It won't extend, and I know that I think somebody earlier had sort of addressed this, that there's going to be a traffic circle at the end of this trail that's there, and I don't think that's a good place to dump pedestrians out into an area of a traffic circle. So I'm a big proponent of green spaces. I think they're important to our communities, and I just hate to lose them. So in any event, thank you. Is there anything else that come out of what I had to say? Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
No, I don't know if you heard, but just a recorded vote, please.
Yes, and Madam Clerk will look after that for us. If there's nothing else, I'll hand it over to Madam Clerk.
Ward 1, Councillor Shank.
With comment, I thought I had a good argument until you spoke. Yes.
Ward 2, Councillor Hicks.
Yes.
Ward 3, Councillor Pennell.
No.
Ward 4, Councillor Norrie.
Yes.
Ward 5, Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Calver.
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to the next item, the 2024 Good Roads Conference request for municipal delegations. And are you going to speak to that, Madam Clerk, or?
Through your worship, this item is just here in case there are any delegation requests any members wanted to formally bring forward. If there are none, there is no resolution required. We do just want to make sure that you all have the opportunity that if there is something that should be brought forward, that you can do so.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anything that anybody can think of with respect to that? Maybe we can do a delegation at the Good Roads Conference. I know at Roma, I think we had a fairly successful delegation, but I think we've already addressed what we needed to address there. So is there anything else anybody can think of? And if not, we'll move on. So go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Through you, your worship. I think I remembered reading, forgive me, because we all get lots of correspondence. Was there not a motion made by another municipality about training for public works staff? Does anyone else, I'm sorry. Does anyone, no, it wasn't the rodeo. I'm gonna look over the chair at Mr. Cuthell in the back. Well, I saw something from another municipality about having the ability to train your own public works staff. It was something about the shortage of labor. Leave it with me. I will find it and I will send you an email and ask questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Are you remembering any of this, Jessica?
Through your worship, there is a lot of those supportive resolutions that come by every week. I'm
Okay.
not recalling the specific one.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on.
Yeah, thanks. I that's not ringing a bell for me either, Ange. But if something comes to light that somebody thinks about, there's nothing that jumps right out at me right now. But if something comes to light, then by all means, we can reach out to Jessica and see if there's an opportunity for a delegation there. So we're looking for a motion to note and receive the report. Are we, Jess?
Through your worship, I suppose it's not actually a report, it's just an agenda heading item. So if you want to pass this by with no motion, that's also fine.
Let's pass it by motion, and we're getting good at that. So we'll look for someone to note and receive the information on the agenda with respect to the 2024 Good Roads Conference request for delegations. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Update proposed amendments to the flag proclamation policies. I think that's where we are next, aren't we, Jess? Where are we going to start from here now? Are you going to start, or will we allow council to start? Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
So through your worship, since the last meeting, there are a few amendments that have been made to these policies. The flag protocol policy has been updated to reflect the discussions around changing the official flag for half-masting from the arena to the Fire Hall Station 1, just for consistency around all government buildings in that area. And we have made removed reference to the flag on the roof of Town Hall, as the intention is to remove that flag and install a proper flagpole on the ground that can be more easily accessed for formal events. There's no other significant changes to that policy. The draft proclamation policy has been updated since the last meeting per council's direction on February 13th. You have heard a deputation tonight, so if there is any, if we want to keep revising this policy, council's free to do so.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Who wants to start? Is there anybody who wants to start with respect to this? I think, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cower.
Yes, I just want to make it clear, there was a mistake or something in the wording for painting over the crosswalks.
Through your worship, I will need to go back and read the specific wording. It was definitely not the intent that crosswalks need to be painted over. There might be some language that if the group indicates they no longer wish to keep repainting it and they're not going to do it, then at that point we would look to do a clean removal rather than let it slowly fade and fade and fade. But that would be if there was no desire to keep updating and refreshing the paint on it. I will double check the wording to make sure that that is made clear, but that was the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Deputy Mayor Carver. Is there anybody else? I think staff is probably going to be looking for direction with respect to the flags protocol policy and the proclamations and art policy drafts that are contained within the report this evening. Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
Yeah, I'm just looking at our banner policies. We have what, six times a year staff is being paid to do it. It's all part of their job description, I guess, 6 times where they do Dundas Street, if I read it right. January, July, August, November, and December. I have zero doubt what Ms. Lloyd said about the $100,000. I worked with her on the BAA when she was the office manager. And if an organization that is well known around the world is bringing in that kind of, well, I'll say tourism business, and if I don't see why we can't include that in them. It's a worldwide time, where I forget the exact words, and we're looking for money for our small businesses, and if they bring in upwards of 100,000 for that month, I don't have a problem with them, our staff putting them up. They can do it 6 other times without an issue on Dundas Street. Why not 7? That's just my thought.
Yeah, go to Councillor Shank, then I'll go to Deputy Mayor Carver.
So I look at it because everybody has to be treated equally. And you have kids in a hockey arena that pay, to play hockey, the fees that are absorbent and everything else. This is already heavily subsidized. So we're basically asking for $500. I think it was $459 to go on Dundas Street to do the banners. All right. Kids going ahead and coming into this town to play hockey. All right. And you know what the rent is, all right, or what the fee is. There is a lot of organizations. All I'm saying is you treat them all equally. All right. So I'm in favor of what was done and what Jessica has done to the bylaw. All right. To have a very nominal fee. All right. Because if you're bringing in $100,000, all right, you're going to argue about $459. So that's all I'm saying. Put everything in perspective, because there's a lot of soccer clubs. There's a lot of other clubs that come in that are spending hundreds of $1,000s then also on numerous weekends, the baseball that runs through, you know what I mean? All I'm saying is they pay fees to play on those baseball diamonds. They pay fees to play hockey. Everybody's paying fees now. So all I'm saying is let's just be fair at a very nominal rate. It's already heavily subsidized as it is at that rate.
Thank you, Councillor Shank. I was going to go to Deputy Mayor Carver, but I can go to Councillor. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not going to argue with you. I agree, and the taxpayer does offset a lot of the costs for hockey, but I'm not going to get into that. The 100,000 doesn't go to this organization; it goes to local businesses. This is, I think, the 100,000 that maybe I'm wrong, but just knowing Tiffany from the BIA, that money goes into Starlet hotels, not into their pockets. That's all I'm bringing up. It's a tourism help. That's all.
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Carver.
No, I'm good at this time.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to comment? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, Councillor Martin. Then I'll go with the clerk wants to comment.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a quick comment too. I kind of agree with what Councillor Norrie is saying about the downtown, and I just want to make sure that all the groups are being treated the same. That's all. And you make sense when you say that everybody pays for but everybody doesn't put banners downtown either. So I don't know if we can distinguish that somehow. So I'm kind of at a loss for that. All I want to do is make sure that all the groups are treated the same way, are charged the same amount of money. If it costs money to put banners up, then we have to charge all the groups. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So this is rock and hard place, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. From my perspective, if the Girl Guides came and said, we want to celebrate and I won't embarrass myself by saying the wrong number, but we'll say the 200th anniversary of the Girl Guide movement, they would pay a fee. Agreed? Boy Scouts, Heart and Stroke Month, cancer, you name it. They come knocking on the door. If they're not the Legion with putting up the veterans, they're paying the fee. That's what we're saying. Despite the fact that all of these other organizations do good and promote good values and inclusivity and everything. And this is not to I'm not by any means taking anything away from Pride, and I do understand the value of the dollars coming into the municipality for sure. I'm worried that if we do agree to waive the fee for Pride, Napanee Pride, that next month we're going to be asked to waive the fee for another organization. And I don't know how you can do that. It's like the relief on a water bill. Like, where do you draw the line? It is a nominal fee. It is heavily subsidized by the town at the $560. I think it was $560 $460 for the downtown banners. I don't know if there's a possibility of, if you do them all, you could get a discount. You could get one thrown in for free. I don't know. Perhaps that's something that we could look at for the policy. But I really think that we have to be consistent.
Thank you.
My take. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Did you want to weigh in, Madam Clerk, or is there anybody else that wants to before? Oh, I got Deputy Mayor Calver first, so.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I'm on board. I mean, it's a very small fee to pay to put banners up, take banners down. I still can't imagine that that's all it costs, but I understand the way they're doing it. They're putting one set of banners up while they're taking another set down. I realize we only have one group of banners right now currently, but we should impose a fee, because if it starts to get every week or every other week or every month or every other month, it starts to cost, and it takes our guys away from the jobs they're supposed to do. We don't have a separate crew that just puts up banners and takes banners down. So I think the small fee that it should be straight across the board for every organization that wants to change banners. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else, Madam Clerk? Did you want to comment? If not, then I'll throw. You good? I think we just need to what I'm hearing is the consistency, and I agree 100% that we need to be consistent. I know we did hear a deputation this evening from Tiffany with respect to Pride, but we just have to be cautious not to focus just on Tiffany's group. We have to make sure that we focus on in totality what is the best solution for our municipality. And really, the way I see it, it just boils down to service, the level of service. Of what level of service do we want to provide the people in this community? Do we want to continue to put the flags or the banners or whatever the case may be up for free, or do we need to be responsible to all the taxpayers and say, listen, that we will do it, and we will do it at a good rate. It's just that we need to be compensated for it, right? So I think, and I try not to simplify or boil this thing down too much, but I think it boils down to what level of service are we comfortable with to provide the citizens of the community with respect to, and again, I know it's just about banners and flags tonight, but what level of service do we want to provide for the municipality to help out people that want to celebrate, doesn't matter what it is in the municipality. So that's all I have to say. If there's nothing else, we will entertain a motion as to whether we want to support the policy that's before this evening, or if we need it to be tweaked or sent back, or if there's another option. There's probably another option there. So thank you, Councillor Shank. He's got a motion on the floor, and just give me a second. I'll find what the staff recommendation is. Sorry, it says to receive for information the Legislative Services update proposed amendments to the flag and proclamation policies report, and further that council adopt the draft flag protocol policy update as presented, and further that council adopt the draft proclamation policy update as presented. And that's moved by Councillor Shank. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any further conversations, discussions, or anything anyone wants to say before we call the vote with respect to the flag proclamation policies? Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Through you, Your Worship. I think we should have a recorded vote on this.
Yep, we can see if we can engage the services of Madam Clerk to have a recorded vote.
Are we good?
I believe so. Do we have, is there anything else before Madam Clerk does record a vote? Seeing none, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Ward 1, Councillor Shank. Ward 2, Councillor Hicks.
Yes.
Ward 3, Councillor Pennell.
Yes.
Ward 4, Councillor Norrie.
No.
Ward 5, Councillor Martin.
No.
Deputy Mayor Calver.
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on, we have Infrastructure Services, Utilities, Water, Pollution Control Plant, WPCP, Project Update, Major Equipment, Pre-Selection and Financial Options Report. And I see Peter coming up, so come on up, Mr. Defoe, and when you get settled in there, the floor will be yours.
All right, thank you, Worship. The report in front of you this evening's fairly lengthy. What I'll do is just try to hit the Coles notes of a few of the main sections throughout, just to put it into perspective. Essentially, what you have in front of you this evening for our water pollution control plant, it's a project that we can't afford without provincial support, but it's a project that we need for future growth and development. The staff recommendation that's in front of you this evening for the ask is in the magnitude of $200,000, and what that's for, it's not to purchase the equipment, it's to purchase the shop drawings and all the technical specifications, so that our engineering doesn't stop and it continues. So when we're at the point when towards the end of the summer, when provincial funding announcements are coming out, we're not behind the 8 ball, and we're able to get a shovel-ready project out the door and meet those aggressive substantial completion dates. So essentially, that's what you have in front of you. With respect to the financial end, the treasurer's here that can answer any questions on that. But what we provided with you tonight was just a snapshot. You know, you can see from the attachments at the back end, it's not affordable unless we get some provincial or other funding. With respect to the actual RFP, so this was a very competitive process. We had 12 submissions that we received for that. So you can see the staff recommendation is for 4 different companies. So this is the tail end of any kind of pre-selection documents that's required for the entire project. So you won't see staff in front of you anymore for that. To put it in perspective, you know, $200,000 is the shop drawings. The actual equipment is about 11 million. So it's a big part of the plant. So it's important that you have everything done ahead of time. So there's novation agreements of these that, you know, the equipment that is a guaranteed price and available at the set time to meet all the construction schedules. It's very key to have all that. it's not something you can go in and buy off the shelf and maintain construction schedules with. There's a fairly lengthy project status update on there. So staff took the time to give you, basically this started in 2011 with environmental assessment. And you can see that there's a few notes in there that we've been over the 100% capacity rating on a handful of years back in those days. We've trimmed back, we've done everything in our power to put ourselves in a good position, but we're at the point in time now where we need to make a few key decisions and keep moving. And there will be some risk with that, but so I think that table probably provides you with some pretty significant background. So if you weren't involved in the early days, it kind of gets everybody up to speed. At the very end of the table, before you get into next steps, we're running at 83% capacity for our plant. There's a lot of new growth coming, so that's going to get chewed up very quickly. So, if we do nothing, if we sit and wait, the MECP does have the ability to issue orders and stop further development if we choose not to move forward and address it. So, unlikely based on all of our actions to date. We're putting ourselves in a good position to address that, but it's taking those next steps. So there's a handful of sections under the purpose of the report. What we're trying to achieve here tonight, right? It's not the purchase of the equipment; it's just the engineering drawing, so we can get moving. So there's a little bit of information on why the pre-selection is so important, the timeliness of it. This is the last round of it that you'll see in front of you. The largest one that's probably, the sticker shock that everybody probably already knew is what's happened to pricing since pre-COVID to now. It's incredible what it's done, right? Cumulative effect, 45% since 2020 to now, right? So when you start looking at what we thought this project was going to cost in the beginning, it's quite different than what it is today. The recommended approach that's in front of you today, there's not a more cost-effective option out there. We have flipped over every rock. There is not a cheaper way to address our capacity with respect to growing. So the 60% design cost, the magnitude is looking at 67,560. So we're almost at the $68 million mark for that. When you add the $6 million maintenance project to that and the engineering fees associated, that's a big number, and it's completely out of our reach. So staff, we looked at that. We went into a budget review session to get that down as low as possible. So there's a section there that shows you all the different options. Most of them are very easily done with really no adverse effect. Some there's risks that we won't know the exact. I'll use the biggest one will likely be the alternative foundation design. So we won't have the geotech information back for probably another 6 to 8 weeks. There's a reasonable chance that it's going to come back in our favor. If it does, it saves us $2 million right off the hop, right? So they're the types of things that we're waiting to firm up. But if I wait until all of these things play out and we don't purchase the shop drawings and proceed, we are going to, and then we do get awarded, if we're lucky enough to get awarded for provincial funding, it's too late. We can't crank the engineering design out, get the tenders out in a reasonable manner and meet those substantial construction deadlines, because the provincial funding one is March of 2027, and the federal funding, the 14 million that we already have, is October of 2027. So they're difficult to meet to begin with. It's a 2.5, 3 year build, so we're pushing this out quick. If we delay it, we get into aggressive tenders. You're going to get into increased costs. It's going to hurt. So you have to be careful on timing. There's a table in there that compares, when you hear us talk about, you've heard the number 50 million for a while now. Since 2020, you've heard this is likely a $50 million project. Well, it was pre-COVID. There are still a few caveats to that. There was no geotech to support the preliminary design costs. So we didn't have the geotechnical information available at our fingertips that we do today. That number would have been much higher. The groundwater conditions down there for building are challenging, and that's why the foundation designs we're trying to get as shallow as possible. So the cost of going down is down deeper in the ground is you're into sheet piling, you're into a lot of very, very expensive things. But so when you compare the retrofit design, what it looked like, the AGS, and then the AGS design with all the cost saving options, we're looking, by the time you put the garage and the engineering fees, we're around that $70 million mark. So it's an expensive project. There's things in here that, you know, if the project, if we get all the way to tender and the tender results come back higher than construction cost estimates, there are more steps at our fingertips. We can get into post-tender budget reviews. They've worked successfully in other municipalities, so that they're not uncommon. It's just a unique way of doing it. The contractor sometimes will have a key eye. If they know the project can't proceed, they have a key eye to really look at things in a slightly different perspective to save cost. Mr. Noble's here this evening. As part of the staff recommendation, we're looking for direction from council on whether there's an appetite to getting it back into review the DC charges. So the original DZ calculations were based on a $50 million plant, which is now 70. So those calculations can change. There's some numbers in the report, you know, that would show that jump of, looks like around $2,000. I think so. That's part of the staff recommendation that we're looking for feedback this evening, see if there's an appetite to do that. And one thing I'll add on that at the tail end of that section, you know, it states that you know, there's no, you know, that can be funded through the DCs, so there's no impact to tax base or user pay fees, right? So it's not going to hurt existing current operating budgets to move forward in that direction if council so chooses. So. With respect to high-level options, I think I just have a few more points, and then maybe I'll turn it over to the treasurer if she has anything she'd like to say, and then I'll be available for any questions. So I'll just touch base on the, so, you know, we're looking at a 3-year build. We have 14 million, and we need that provincial support. There's a section there that talks about risk and what we need to do to mitigate that risk. So there's a whole handful of things in there. If we kind of stick to those targets, we can do it. If we start going outside those windows, anything can be done, but it's time and money is going to go up when our time goes down. So I'll probably leave it at that. When you see when you look at the background information, you see a Class A estimate. So we're close. We're at a B now. It's 10 to 15% range, but they figure they're down around the 10%. So they're starting to get pretty accurate with a construction estimate of probable cost. But once we get the purchase of shop drawings and we finalize the design, that's when the ECA approvals really get going. And that's when the costs start to get very defined and we know with greater certainty of what this is going to look like. And then there's a handful of bullets that we put in there as well as, you know, there's wild cards in any tender. There's always wild cards. So maybe with that, do you have anything you want to mention?
Thank you. Through you, your worship. So you'll see just as attachment here in Peter's report, just outlining a couple different high-level financing options. So I just want to point out that at this point in time, we're not able to provide an in-detail financing strategy for this project, primarily just given the fact that we do not know the outcomes of what provincial funding we may be able to secure. So we're really just highlighting in this, as you'll see in scenario 2, for example, if we were not to receive any further funding, the inaffordability of this project. So the municipality is bound by our ARL, our annual repayment limit, and as such, if we were to finance the entirety of this project at the full magnitude, that would require around 90% of our ARL, which in my opinion is too high of an allocation for one specific project. That is the ARL for the entire municipality, so it would really limit our ability to do any future borrowing. So it's really important that we're able to secure additional funding in order for this project to be financially successful.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Ellen. Does anybody have any questions or comments with respect to the presentation that's before us? And we do have a staff recommendation before us, so go ahead if anybody has anything. Yep, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So $71 million. Well, everybody got sober real quick here. So the point is, guys, you're going to need this for the municipality to grow. With this sewage plant, when it's all said and done, how much more capacity are we allowed to double our population, or you know what I mean? Or that's the very first question. I got a whole bunch.
Through your worship, I could speak to capacity numbers. Mr. Nobes could speak more to, you're probably getting more into the development, like housing units. Is that where you're going with this question? Yeah. 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 Through your worship, so right now our current average day design is 9,087 cubic meters a day. The new design goes up to 11,500.
Doesn't sound like much, but it will make a huge difference.
I'm sorry, Peters, that's huge from 9,000 to 11,000?
Through your worship, it is. It anticipates all the future growth for many years in that. So, yep.
So now, yes, you can see this funding, but well, of course, I agree with the motion that you're gonna have to look at every possible facet from DC charges or anything else. How we can do this without maxing out our borrowing capacity of a municipality. You don't want to ever be in that position. But the point is there any way that you can come back and give us a, you know, like a spreadsheet, basically? Okay, what can we do? What can't we do? You know what I mean? Who do we have to lobby to make sure? You probably, as Midge and the mayor is already doing that anyway, but just to give us, I've read the whole report from one end to the other, but it's quite in depth, and I'm not in that business, but give me a proceed report of who I'm supposed to holler for money, because we definitely need money to pay this bill.
Needless to say, I think we've rattled just about every chain that we need to rattle, and I'm hoping that we're going to have some success with that. I think the reason we're here this evening, though, is that we want to continue moving forward with this, and it's basically the $200,000 that we're going to have to continue to move forward with, because we don't want to get ourselves into a timeline situation that when we find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's too late because we didn't do all the preemptive stuff that should have been done. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that we've done a pretty good job of reaching out to the people. And there are some other things outside the box that I think that we can look at as well. But it's going to be a challenge. This is going to be the biggest investment this municipality has made in the history of the municipality. And it's a turning point for our municipality, because we turn into winners or we're losers. And that's just the way it is. I mean, because if we don't expand, if we don't grow, you think this year's taxes were bad, wait and see what's going to happen in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years, especially if we're dependent on the user fees. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cowher.
I'd like to make a motion to move to staff recommendation on this. I mean, they've done, we know they've done everything they can possibly do. We have no choice but to move ahead, and we have to be ready. And this will get us there prepared. So I vote for staff recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cowher. Is everyone aware of what the staff recommendation is, or do you want me to read it? Go ahead. Sorry, Madam Clerk. I see you.
Sorry, just if I may, the last point of the staff recommendation does actually require input from council, whether that's a yes or no to investigate potential development charges background study update.
Yeah, and I think, at least my opinion is it would be a yes, because I think we have to, as Peter said, turn over every stone that needs to be turned over. So let's not leave anything turned over and wish we had of. So that would be my suggestion. Councillor Nora, you're seconding that motion? We have a mover and a seconder. Is there anything anyone else wants to speak to or ask questions of Alan or Peter? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. Yeah, sure.
We were 20 minutes on $460 and we were 10 minutes on 70 million.
Yeah, sometimes the biggest things are the easiest ones. So update to Schedule A of the Seasonal Load Restrictions Bylaw number 2023-0087. Are you going to speak to this, Jeff, briefly, or?
Through your worship and council, it's pretty straightforward, but just a high level overview. This is an amendment to this previously approved load restriction bylaw that council passed in December of 2023. Upon enacting the bylaw, it was brought to our attention that there was some roads within our industrial commercial area that weren't enforced over the past few years, and it was perceived that they were not a restricted road. We've had some good outreach from business owners within them areas. And they expressed their concern with business continuity and also future infill of vacant parcels within those lands and the lands in the industrial area north of the 401. Staff reviewed the roads that this was impacting, and we feel that very minor impact to maybe a reduction in life cycle of these roads, but a very big impact for being able to promote industrial and commercial growth in these areas and infill. Big impact of economic development and business continuity.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Is there any questions of Jeff? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information infrastructure services update to Schedule A of the seasonal load restrictions bylaw number 2023-0087 report, and further that council approve the amendment to Schedule A of the bylaw. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's any further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. 9.7, Advisory Committee Appointments. Madam Clerk, are you going to speak to this one?
Through your worship, I believe this report is fairly straightforward. One of our committees is looking for a call for additional members in order to help them manage numbers for quorum. If there's any questions, I can answer them.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any questions, Madam Clerk, with respect to her report and her presentation? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Legislative Services Advisory Committee appointments report, and further that council authorize and direct staff to issue a call for additional volunteers to fill the 3 vacant positions on the Downtown Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. First bylaw is bylaw number 2024-0009, being a bylaw to amend procedure bylaw number 2023-0060. We'll look for a motion to put it on the floor before we do the 3 readings. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Pennell. Is there any questions or comments before we do the 3 readings with respect to bylaw 2024-0009? Seeing none, ready first, second, and finally passed this 27th day of February 2024. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 2024-0010, being a bylaw to appoint an interim fire chief. We'll look for a motion to put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Again, before we do our 3 readings, is there any comments or questions? Anyone have any questions with respect to this bylaw? Seeing none, read it first, second, and finally passed this 27th day of February 2024. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Excuse me. Bylaw number 2024-0011, being a bylaw to amend seasonal load restriction bylaw number 2023-0087. Look for a motion to put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Shank. Once again, before the 3 readings, is there any conversations or questions or comments with respect to this bylaw before we do our 3 readings? Seeing none, read it first, second, and finally passed this 27th day of February 2024. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Information reports from members. Is there anyone that has any updates with respect to any of the committees that they're sitting on? Seeing none. Inquiries. Do any members of council have any inquiries of staff that they would like the staff to dig up some answers for and bring back at a future council meeting? Seeing none, is there any notice of motions? Seeing none, is there any new business that anyone wants to bring up? Seeing none, oops, sorry, Councillor Hicks, did you have something? No. Any announcements that anyone wants to do? Counselor Hicks.
I don't know if I'm, through your worship, if I'm stealing anyone's thunder or not, but we all got the email telling us that a longtime employee, 42 years, Michelle King, is retiring. I believe tomorrow is her last official day. We were chatting the other day and she started her job when I was in grade 9. So that tells you how old we both are. Anyway, I would just like to formally thank Michelle for all of her years. I first met her when I ran for Adolphustown 34 years ago. Anyway, thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you, Counselor Hicks. And you did steal a little of my thunder, but that's okay. So I will just add to it. There's a few words here that we want to congratulate Michelle King on her upcoming retirement. Her last day is tomorrow, so if anybody is around, please stop by and see her. Michelle has dedicated her entire career to the town of Greater Napanee, serving her community and members of the organization for 42 years, which is really simply amazing. Michelle's town knowledge is unprecedented as she has helped guide us through many organizational milestones and changes, including the amalgamation of this corporation in 1998. She has played an integral role in the growth of this community, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. So, like I said, if anybody's around tomorrow, please stop by the office and wish Michelle best wishes in the next adventures of her life. So thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Seeing none, the forward calendar, I know that, sorry. Sorry. It's
okay.
Go ahead.
Could I just want to take a minute to express council's condolences perhaps to the Bobian family and to the Billy Rainey family. We've lost 2 really important sporting members of the community in the last couple of weeks and month, really. But Bill has been involved in hockey and coaching, and not just hockey, but just about every sporting event in town. So I just wanted to say to the Bobian family where our condolences are passed on to you this day.
Thanks. And thanks for reminding me, Councillor Martin. I was at the funeral today, and Bill has influenced my life quite substantially. Right back to when I was playing house league hockey, I found an old picture that actually one of the members of this municipality actually sent to me that we played hockey together, and it was a long time ago. So, and he followed me through hockey. So I agree 100%. Condolences to the Bobian family, and we wish things will be better eventually. So, but thank you for bringing that up. Is there anything else? Seeing none, the forward calendar, the 2024 Q1 forward calendar is, we've had an opportunity to look at, as well as the council resolution tracker. Is there anything on those 2 documents anybody has any questions or would like to speak to? Seeing none, look for a motion to confirm for a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation Town of Greater Napanee, moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, we'll read it a first, second, and finally pass this 27th day of February 2024. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, folks. It's been a long evening, and I do apologize. I'm probably not feeling the best this evening, and I apologize for coughing up a storm here. So thanks again, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.